Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Love Island coverage here at We Know Love Island on the RHAP network. Today, we'll be talking about the first half of week 5 of Love Island USA season 7. That's the heart rate challenge. We're standing on business. There's still 20 people here for some reason. I'm, of course, Kirsten MacInnis, joined as always by the wonderful Brian Scally. Scally, how are you?
Hello. I'm so good. I'm here. I would say my heart's on fire, but I think that's just a heart attack from how many people we still have in this villa. So I am, doing good, excited that we have an upcoming elimination, even if we don't have it just yet.
I'm literally like the fact that there were 20 people in the villa Friday night and there are 20 people in the villa right now, Tuesday evening, July 1st. I'm steaming. Like
Look.
there's no reason for it. They should have been able to clear at least 8 people.
At least
Friday.
I'm ready for the finale. No, I think that they made good use of many of the people that they have here. I feel like not too many of them were completely extraneous to the story. There was at least some storyline for a good amount of them. But
I can say some storyline because it's like some of them it's one line, literally.
Yes. But what more storyline has Austin had all season? So that's fine. Like, we're moving along. I think that it will be fun to touch on these stories and then say goodbye to them and remember them for what they were.
Don't be sad it's over. Be glad it happened.
Or, try to remember in 3 weeks that it happened, because I'm curious, if I quiz you on casa names in 3 weeks, how that goes.
Quiz me on casa names today. It wouldn't go great. Actually, it might go okay, but yeah. I don't know about that. I really spent a long time this week trying to remember Grayson's name. Like a lot of time was dedicated to it. Yeah.
Look, it happens.
We were talking about thumbnails for this week's episodes of Love Island, and one of them came, and I was like, I can't tell if that's Hannah or Grayson in the picture to be like, this person's been eliminated or not. And mind you, the like PR site said it was Iris, so we were all, blind leading the blind out here. But I also, so I couldn't tell if it was Hannah or Grayson, and I also couldn't remember Grayson's name for a good 30 minutes while I was like looking at it.
I don't think they look that much alike outside of the fact that they are just like, pretty blondes, but
I actually think they look a lot alike, and I don't tend to be someone who, like, normally people would go, any blonde all looks alike, and I'm like, no, that's not true. I really think Hannah and Grayson
maybe I need to see a side by side. I just know what Hannah looks like more so by now, especially after all of
I don't know what Grayson looks like.
No, I feel like I saw her tonight and I was like, who is that? I just know it's not Hannah. So that was kind of my baseline.
That's hilarious. I love this. And you know what? But it's not even Grayson's fault, because I'm sure that she is giving at least like some entertainment. But
look,
it's okay.
She walked into a hard position. We'll talk about it. I think that unfortunately for Grayson, this might be cut a little bit short, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And to also cut this short, we're not going to talk about Grayson off the jump anyways.
No, we are leading with Grayson would not be my move.
That would be crazier than soul ties, truly. So let's start off on Sunday night. Alandria, Shelly, and Sierra are getting their first girls chat back together, reunited, and it feels so good. And they're asking her, how did it feel when she was eliminated but not? And I mean, they talk a little bit about Taylor, but I just cannot engage with how Sierra and Shelly talk about Taylor with Alandria, because if they were really her friends, they would say, he's just not that into you, and we would all move on with our lives.
To be fair, and I think that it might be cursing a little more this episode than usual. I will give it to Shelly. She does say "fuck that man" after the Casa recoupling, so there is a little bit of like Alandria wants to close the chapter. Doesn't even know who else she would explore though, and she feels defeated. So there's some talk of it. I just don't think it was like firmly just expressed like, no, it is absolutely cut off. Don't even ask her about this, because it continued to come up quite a bit.
Yeah, listen, Shelly said fuck that man, and Alandria said I would if he wanted to. So she does tell Sierra about the Nicolandria of it all, that it was weird to explore with Nick, and it felt like it was too late to get into that, and they were both really worried about Sierra. They kissed, but there was no spark. Lies. We could literally see the sparks from home.
If you don't want to trust Alandria's word, that's up to you. But she's saying very clearly she knew what he had with Sierra. It felt weird. It was good to confirm immediately that this is just friendship vibes. It's not romantic. And so surprisingly, Sierra's like, you know what? I actually feel no type of way about this at all. I'm so glad that he explored with you. If he was going to explore with anyone, I'm just like a cool girl and I have cool feelings about this cool situation.
Yeah, she's just a cool girl, obviously. I was floored by this reaction from Sierra, truly, like, because I feel like she meant it too. She was like, I would rather the man I am sleeping with explore with my best friend than anyone else. Like, bizarro vibes.
Well, and that's why I think when she starts talking to Nick, she even says, and I maybe wonder if it was her expectations of Casa for Nick, where this was like a better case scenario, because she's like, what happened? Usually every bombshell's all over you. Why did you not have success? Like, you got kicked out, like you couldn't hold your own there, Nick. And so I think she probably assumed the worst. And when it's just like, oh, he made out with Alandria one time, like, oh, he did that in every challenge. Who cares?
Yeah, we've seen this film before. I also, honestly, the way she was kind of chirping him a little bit, I was like, oh, has Sierra gotten the ick? Like, is she a little bit over it? But obviously that's not the case as we moved on.
Was pointed out because she's like, yeah, I talked to Alan and he did the cutest thing where he cut the pancakes into a C, which was pointed out online was probably a dig, because when they were doing the recoupling, Nick spelled Sierra's name with an S. So
yeah, but also, like, how often are you talking about how you spell your name? Nick just is like, okay, I know her name is Sierra, versus Elan got to watch the show, so he's seen it in a Chiron.
Look, who knows?
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. But I also like completely understand why Nick maybe wouldn't know this, but like you wouldn't anticipate Sierra to be spelled with a C.
For sure. I did think it was funny though when Sierra's like, you know what? I just have butterflies when I talk to you. I can't stop thinking about what we're gonna do outside of the villa. Like we could go to a movie or we could go to a coffee shop. He says, or skydive. Like, oh yeah, those are the same things.
It's the same level. Going to a coffee shop is just as risky as skydiving, obviously.
To me, this is where I was like, is he just like, oh yeah, we're gonna be like fun friends and not as romantic? Like the things she was saying were more romantic, where he was like, I'm just excited to get out of here.
Yeah, and it's hard to know until they actually get out of the villa too. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes peeled.
Yep. Well, Kirsten, I don't know if you saw this interview online, but it was talked about and revealed to the press about the terminology and the language that they use this season when they are talking about intercourse.
And if Hannah had not said it, we would have figured it out this week on our own. Because we do see Sierra and Nick having a journey under the covers, which is the terminology they use. And I thought it was hilarious that Hannah just exposed that in an interview.
So funny. She's like, oh yeah, I'm going to just rat all of them out. They're going to send me home. I'm telling all my secrets. Like,
well, and now I'm like, okay, maybe they hated you for a reason.
Oh,
I mean, I could never hate her. I could never hate her, but
I don't know. Maybe we don't know things, but in general,
well, that's true. Based on what I currently know, I could never hate her, but I'm open to facts evolving over time.
Very quickly, I really did like this conversation with Sierra and Iris, where Sierra is like, so did you hear the journey I went on last night? And her and Iris seem to have this like undercover good friendship that we didn't really know about. I feel like we see Sierra, Shelly, and Alandria as a trio a lot on the show, and Iris is maybe there but not talking, and that's probably due to editing, or they don't really show us the Sierra and Iris conversations. But I did think this one was fun.
I loved this whole conversation. Sierra went in depth about the journey she was on.
Oh, yes.
They stopped for food, hot dogs and hamburgers.
Which Nick later says best 40 seconds of his life. So, like, how much time did you have on this car trip?
I think the 40 seconds is like the last, like the home stretch of the trip, you know? It's like not the whole duration start to finish, to which I say maybe they just should have stopped for hamburgers and the stop for hot dogs was unnecessary.
Gotcha. So that was the exit ramp. Got you.
Yeah, exactly. Short exit ramp. But I also feel like it's very funny because Sierra's talking to Iris about like, oh, this was a much longer journey. It was so much better, but it ended in a waterfall situation.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick is like 40 seconds, a little better. Like we're working our way up. And so I'm also now kind of thinking, does Nick have a good grasp on the concept of time and its passage? Like,
yeah.
Is this an accurate statement?
I think he is, playing himself down a little bit in these conversations, but I think at the same time, he says there's room to be improved. He definitely wants to do better in the future.
And I think it's very endearing how he can laugh at his own self and not be like really in his head or upset about these kinds of things, because I feel like there's a lot of just like stigma towards, potential premature, and
exit ramping. Got you.
Yeah, premature exit ramping. There's a lot of stigma towards that. And so I think that it's actually really good just for the world to see conversations about normal sex, and like not every sexual encounter is going to, almost pretty much no sexual encounter is going to be like a porn video, right? And so talking about the reality of the situation, how, sometimes it just doesn't go as long as you wish it would have gone, I think is a positive.
This was all good. Now, where the conversation takes a little bit of a turn is when Sierra's like, oh yeah, oh wait, you didn't know that Nick and Alandria hooked up while we were gone? Yeah, it's so silly. They made out because they were exploring their connection, to which Iris is horrified.
I know, and this is where Iris won me over, because I did not know her. I did not know this woman. Like, we just had never, they didn't show her to us on the show. And when she's like going off like, oh, so the guy you're sleeping with and your best friend just need to explore their connection. And when she said, you've been inside me, you freak, I was like, okay, you've won me. You've got me, Iris.
Yeah, Sierra goes, oh, when you put it that way, it does make me uncomfortable. Like, I think the whole world was uncomfortable when you put it that way.
I wasn't uncomfortable. I saw a bad bitch standing 10 toes down.
And so I thought this was good. I do appreciate that Sierra lets it marinate. She has the conversation with Nick before the challenge, and we'll get to the challenge. I don't think it's super important in their story, except for the fact that Nick gets really territorial. I
don't think Nick would have gotten so territorial if Elin hadn't said, now it's your turn to watch, in such a prodding way. I don't know, maybe there is some jealous tendencies in Nick in general that we haven't gotten the chance to see, but it doesn't help when a person who literally looks like the Temu version of you is chirping you.
Look, it wasn't great, but I do think even outside of that, Nick before was like, I better not see Elin making out with you. And I think that that's probably fair. That pretty quickly went out the window when every single person in the whole challenge made out with Sierra, let alone just Elin. So I would say that Nick maybe felt a little left out, because he's like, why is every single girl skipping me? This is crazy. But
and to that I say, what's your breath like, Nick?
Interesting.
What's the problem here?
You've made out with all of them before. You'll get over it. It's fine. So I don't know. I thought Nick was honestly a little annoying post this when talking about Elin. I felt like he was giving shades of some other reality TV people who were a little bit all talk, and then once they finally had the conversation, he's like, no, we're good. I mean, like, it's not sweet, but we're good. It's fine. Like, whatever.
Oh, Cody Calafiore?
Yes, exactly. Yes, for Big Brother watchers, but I don't know. I just was like, I don't know. Nick was giving me a little bit of the ick at points.
Yeah, I felt that as well. TBH, and I just don't like him. Oh, Elon has to stick in his lane. He's in the confessional, like, I'm so mad. I'm like, okay, it's literally anyone who's getting so upset about the heart rate challenge. I'm literally like, it was never that serious. It was never that serious, and calm down. And I feel that way about all of the situations that we're going to talk about.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Look, this leads to the point where Elin is like, yeah, I think I'm going to pull Sierra for a talk because I can only go based off our last conversation because she hasn't talked to me in 5 days. That clearly can't mean anything. Definitely she's still interested in me. To which Brian is like, she's not interested in you at all and you have to stop.
Yeah, like, you can only go off your last conversation. Actually, 5 days of being ignored when you're literally locked in a house is something you can go off of.
Yeah, to which Sierra and Nick go on this date, and it's cute. I don't feel like there's a whole lot here except for the fact that, they have a little bit of a conversation. They talk about how they've had sex and like clear up some of the boundaries that they do have, and they close it off.
And I know on Love Island you have to close it off, and then at the end of the season you become boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, I get it. I understand that there are steps to this. I know the game. But I am just never gonna be like, woo, rah, 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 when it's like, we've closed it off, but we are not actually boyfriend and girlfriend.
This is tradition. We have to celebrate the same rituals that we have every season here. I mean, when they come in, they're like, we went bike riding. Everyone's like, oh my God, bike riding. Like, yay. So, like, okay, it's fine, guys.
Like, we carry tales of the outside world. Yep. We were on bicycles.
So it is just like, it's what they do. It's fine. I think it's cute. I'm glad that they're closed off at this point. And I think that now maybe we'll dedicate a little less time here. I think that, honestly, there's so much discussion online about, like, you can tell that Nick is different with Sierra on their dates that he was with Alandria, and it's not the same, and he's not interested in her. And I don't think that's true, because I don't think it's true that he's not into Sierra and that he is into other people more. What it is for me is that Nick being so good about making people believe that he's into people that it does make me slightly less invested even when he is actually into people.
Yes, I think that's super fair. And I just want to say, I know I've been a very proud Nick Alandria stan on this podcast, and I still am. Like, if they in the future decided to date, I would double tap that Instagram post, right? I'd be excited about it. But, like, there are people on the internet like, oh, I thought that they were cute together and that was fun. And then there's some people on the internet acting a little weird. They're making it weird, and they're making it weird in a variety of ways that we don't need to walk down that path for each and every step. But, like, we had a moment. It was beautiful. It was rare. We were there. We remember it all too well. But they're not going to explore it again in the villa, and they might not out of the villa. And so we do need to just take Nick at his word when he says, I want to be closed off with Sierra and I like her. And I don't think that he's treating Sierra any differently than he has at any point. And like, yeah, does he cheese? He hasn't cheesed as hard as he did that one time in Soul Ties with anyone, except for when all the boys were laughing with him, right? So that's fair if you want to have a piece of evidence or whatever. But, like, it doesn't mean he doesn't like Sierra. Yeah.
I agree. And I would say that it is not exclusive to the Nick Alandria stands being weird online. It's just a subset of all fandoms.
Everyone makes it weird, especially on love shows where you're shipping people, and especially Love Island, we have so many episodes to really feel like we know the Islanders a little bit more than some other shows. And so it does make us all prone to being a little weird. I have been guilty of it myself in the past, although I would argue maybe not to the full extent of the spectrum of weirdness that people can make it.
Can we talk about the Hearts on Fire challenge now?
I think we have to.
It is. It plays into so many of the other storylines that I think it has to be discussed before jumping into many of the others.
Yes. I hate that they did it in teams. I know they did this in Love Island Games, and I feel like it was more fun in Love Island Games than it was in this season. But there's just something about everyone being trapped on the balcony and like kind of only seeing from a distance that we were super missing. And I get it. There's 20 people here and you want to make sure Alandria and Huda get to do the heart rate challenge.
The sun would have been up if we went by one. That's the problem, I think.
They could have done it 2 nights. Like tonight the men go, tomorrow the women go, and they could put it into one episode for us, no problem.
Yep. I think that's the problem.
Or make it stay up all night. I don't care.
Look, why not? I think that they did make a mistake by doing that. I think part of the fun and like who raised whose heart rate the most is seeing if your partner did not raise yours when your partner had no chance to raise your heart rate in this because they were performing at the same time as you. So I think that's the only place that drama really usually comes out of. Now, I will say, can we talk about the costumes?
We have to, I fear.
I fear as well, because I'm going to say an automatic disqualification to any duos costumes that did not match. Why was there a Greek god and a sailor? What does that have to do with each other?
Why was there a strong man and a leather bunny?
I don't know.
Why was there a dark angel and a pirate?
Look, and so when we get a cowboy and cowgirl, I was like on my feet, like, yes, finally they match. And I think that maybe they were going to let them go separately, and this is a last minute audible, but huge mistake. You got to get matching costumes if we're going to do duos.
Yeah, no, if you're in a duo, they literally have to go together. And I know that technically a cop and a prisoner go together, I guess, thematically, but that was also like bombastic side eye and that.
What's the worst costume?
Like the worst costume or the worst combo of costumes?
Which costume would you find the least sexy?
It's so hard because some of the costumes that are like okay as sexy, I'm like, well, the person wearing it totally like turned me off. Do you have a clear answer and I can think while you give it?
It's a Dalmatian.
Yes. No, actually, yes, you're 100% correct. Because it was so weird.
Disgusting.
And then she's like licking people. Like, I was in like puppy mode, like licked her hand. And I was like, girl, you won me over earlier today. And now I've got the egg.
Look, like the leather bunny, when they put on like cat ears, for whatever reason, that has become like a fine, sexy outfit. A Dalmatian, no, I don't want this like bestiality crap going on. I don't like it. It really bothered me. I won't lie.
Listen, they heard people saying that Love Island this season was too conservative. And so they said, let's bring in bestiality.
No, I hated it. She's like pretending she's a dog, and I was like, go away.
Yeah, it was so gross. My heart would have raised the most from Iris, but it would have been fear and disgust.
Literally.
Like, not anything else.
Oh my God. Any points she gained in the conversation with Ciara were immediately lost. And I know it wasn't her choice, but I can't help it.
Yeah, there's no way she chose. Like, it's not like there was a line of outfits and they got to choose. I think that Amaya's old school waitress was so cute, but I'm like, why are you with a construction worker? What are we doing here?
I was like, are we like, is this like a blue collar theme? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to be generous.
It's like, oh, is he the construction worker who cat calls her on her way to work?
Was there a waitress in the Village, people? Like, what are we doing? I really. I was trying to connect the dots because at first they like tried to pretend that TJ was a vet and not just a doctor, and I was like, oh, okay.
No, I don't care if it was supposed to be a veterinarian or a doctor or an astronaut. I don't need you to make your sexy costume fit better with the sexy costume of a dog. Like, and you're so right. Like bunny ears and like cat ears and like, I don't know, maybe it's like when the ear stands straight up, you can just kind of forget that it's like an animal ear and the rest of the costume is just lingerie, so it's fine. But that Dalmatian costume had like a tail, which I didn't love.
No, I hated it.
giving weird.
God, because if you're like dressed up as in cat ears, it's like, oh, it's Catwoman. Like, are you 101 Dalmatian? Like, what? Get out of here! I don't like this.
Like the bunny, it's like, oh, you're a Playboy bunny.
Yes,
oh,
exactly.
You're Elle Woods at the party in Legally Blonde.
Exactly. So I hated all of that. I feel like, can I have a complaint?
You can literally always complain to me. It's a safe space.
I understand that you think there is too far in the Hearts on Fire challenge. Yes. My complaint is the Hearts on Fire used to be a striptease challenge in which they would strip, lap dance, etc. on each other in order to raise their heart weights. Now it is just make out with everyone, and it's just like, how many challenges are just make out with every single person here? So it just became no different than any other challenge for me at a certain point, and I think that the differentiation was what was interesting. I think very few people actually attempted a striptease and instead just diverted immediately back to making out.
But here's the thing, right? The moves that Huda did that were seen as too far were the moves that an actual stripper would do at like a bachelor party if like a bachelor was brought up on stage. Like the fact that everyone's fine with everybody making out, but then when someone brings out some moves that are maybe not civilian, now we're pissed off. I don't like that.
Let's talk about the Huda of it all, because everyone's making out with everyone, including Ace and Shelly, who very much made out with, like, Shelly makes out with Chris and Sierra and Chris again. Ace is making out with Andrena and Amaya and Clark. Like, they're making out with lots and lots of people. They have a three-way kiss with Amaya.
Three-way kiss. Thank you. I was worried you were going to forget it. And I was like, I can never forget. And that's also, it's interesting because someone theorized online that everyone had kind of switched it up and started being nicer to Amaya because someone from Casa Amor was like, oh, she's a fan favorite, everybody knows. But I think the Tuesday night episode has confirmed that that is not the case. They do not know that we stand for Maya Papaya.
See, I am curious. I know Maya Papaya is not like the biggest stretch, but the fact that all of a sudden everyone in the villa started calling her it at the same time was a little bit curious to me. So I always am a little wary of what has leaked into the villa, whether it be through a bombshell, through, I don't know, like them just getting hints of it in the DR or what the case may be. So I think maybe they could know at this point. Now, my thing with Huda is we know production has edited some things out that might have either intentionally or not intentionally made Huda look better, whether that was like Hannah and Shelly checking her quite a few times and when she went too far, whether it was her smashing the plate of food back onto Jeremiah when there was speculation of like, did she punch a wall or something when her hands were really red after the conversation. Again, allegedly, we don't know if that's true, but we've heard conversations of it. So when Shelly is later talking about how Huda went too far, and she refers to it as like, yeah, you didn't have to go for it for 10 minutes after I'm standing up with Chris. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, calm down. There is a scene, there is part of it in which like Huda is making out with Ace and like bouncing on top of him and then like rotates.
Yes,
and then the camera's cut.
Ace is grabbing her ass and participating and bouncing her. So if you're going to be mad at Huda, you better be mad at Ace too.
When have I not been mad at Ace? That's a great question.
No, I'm not saying that you need to be mad at Ace too, because I know you are, but Shelly's not.
Yes.
And
I agree with that
is where that pisses me off, where I'm like, you don't have control over what Huda does, but you should have some sort of say in the actions that Ace is taking if you are going to be in a relationship with him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that probably a lot more happened that we didn't see. I feel like Huda's and Chris's was pretty cut down in general. So I don't know, just the fact that every single person in the villa was like, yeah, it was too far. Like Nick and Taylor and Ace and every guy there was like, even Pepe was like, I felt like more than a challenge.
But I also think like, obviously, we don't know specifically what Huda's job outside of the villa is, and that's not really our business. No. But I think that if she had some professional experience, there's also a part of that where she is probably just going into performance mode when she goes into the challenges, and it's not like fully registering to her that maybe that's further than what others are doing, because she's just like, oh, when I perform, I like kind of just go into performance mode and I'm not really thinking. And I think that's a fair, like, I think it's a fair defense. I don't think that Huda's actions all season long have been great. I think there's been a lot of times where she has made really, really poor decisions and acted really poorly, and honestly in ways that if a man did would have been eliminated from the villa. And so she probably should have been sent home just because of like standards of behavior. But I think when it comes to her activity in the challenges, it's more so she just wants to put on a show and do the best that she can do, and it's not clicking for her that she perhaps has skills that the others don't have, and so it comes across as going way too far.
Well, as far as I know, Huda is a fitness instructor, and so I'm going to keep that there. I don't know if I feel like it's super relevant otherwise. I feel like Huda is probably at the point where everyone told her she was not doing the experience correctly and she needs to like have more fun and have more fun, and now she thinks she's having more fun and she just like doesn't get it. I think the comment that makes me feel like she doesn't get it the most is when she's talking to Chris and she's just like, if I was ugly, would it have been better? It's like, oh, like I really have a hard time having sympathy for you when you ask the question like that. Like it really makes me feel like you don't get this.
She doesn't get it, but I also think that Shelly maybe also doesn't get the Love Island experience. So I'm not really like, I don't know. I don't love the energy from Shelly when it's pointed directly towards Huda and not Ace, because Ace has been playing in all these women's faces all season long, and he needs to be getting some of the smoke for this. If she was equally mad at both of them, I would be more inclined to be like, yeah, this is fine. But just the fact that it's all at Huda, and it's not even that I'm like, oh, I love Huda, I think she's great. I just think like maybe you guys aren't friends, and that's okay. You don't have to be friends.
Yeah, I think the problem is that they thought they were friends, or at least were acting like they were friends. And as Alandria says, Huda is always the one who is, we're sisters, we would never do anything because we're sisters. And so trust me, we will get to Shelly and Ace. I have many, 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 many comments about the two of them. But as far as like, did Huda do too much? I think they probably just edited out what it was. I don't think we'll ever probably either maybe maybe movie night, but otherwise I feel like this is probably just going to fizzle out. I don't think the Huda is going to be as close with a lot of these girls moving forward. And that just is what it is.
I think the only thing you could show me that would make me adamant that too much was done was if they literally went on a journey. And I don't think that's what happened.
There's also been a lot of speculation, which I think was probably pretty confirmed by a comment where people were thinking maybe Ace was super excited about what was going on when he stood up, and that's when everyone's like, oh, because Huda's like, oh, did it get your heart racing? Get anything else racing? It's like, I feel like we know what that means.
Well, I think that perhaps he should have worn 2 pairs of underwear.
Maybe. Learn from Jeremiah. When Huda is dancing on you, wear 2 pairs of underwear.
We already knew that. So it's honestly a rookie mistake from Ace. I knew that Ace was 22 this whole time, but it hadn't clicked in my brain that means like he was in high school when COVID happened. And so like obviously that caused like
it's a shift.
There's problems like for the development of people like based on their age when COVID lockdowns happened. And to me, it makes a little bit more sense of why he's like socially a little weird.
Look, we all have problems. They're just different problems. So I think that for Huda moving forward, I think she has a pretty good thing with Chris. I will say I actually enjoyed all of the scenes of Huda and Chris this week.
I really like them, and I think that he does a wonderful job of making Huda feel cared for and protected so that she doesn't get activated to hit those like really bad emotional responses, because he's really putting in the effort to make her feel cared for, which I think is wonderful. And I hope that everyone finds someone who makes them feel safe and cared for.
Yeah, I think it was cute. I think there was a little bit of call out when Huda realizes that he only gave her 1 pancake and he gave Shelly 2 pancakes. Very funny for Huda to have multiple pancake gates over a season.
It's actually hilarious. I don't even really like pancakes that much. I prefer waffles, but honestly, the season of Love Island is kind of making me want to get pancakes.
Best move is paying a stack of pancakes for the table that you split, but otherwise
it's love so it. Crazy. That's
love it so much. Everyone should do it.
That's fine. We'll in New York this fall we can get a stack of pancakes for the table. But I do like the 1 pancake versus 2 is shady. Like if you're bringing 2 girls breakfast, you should make sure that they get an equivalent breakfast and not one person gets twice as many pancakes and a flour.
I think I would have been hesitant to say anything about the pancakes because let's just say the spread that Chris makes, it's like a full charcuterie board. This is an immaculate breakfast, possibly the best breakfast I've ever seen on Love Island.
I think he turns down the heat on the pan, unlike everyone else who's got the pan too hot.
He did not take a plate or 2 plates. He took a serving platter to each of them. It was so full.
It looked really good. I mean, he's got 7 sisters, so it seems like he knows what's going on.
Do you think this is just Chris being a 6'8" man? Like this is a normal size plate for him?
I do think that, like 100% that's part of it. Like as like an athlete and someone that tall, his caloric needs are certainly higher than pretty much everyone else. And I think you never want to be the one who's like, oh, I brought you this tiny plate because you're a woman and you can only eat such itty bitty serving. Like, bring them the full spread and let them decide how much they want of everything. It's fine.
Agreed. I agree. Now, I feel like they have their conversation where it becomes clear Chris is starting to shift things where he's not feeling the reciprocation from Shelly at this point, and he is putting more of his attention onto Huda to the point where they're making out by the end of this.
Yes, and he gives her his shirt because she's cold, and she like kind of turns it down. And she's like, "Oh, I'm just not used to someone taking care of me." And he's like, "Well, if you don't let me, like, how will you get used to it?" Which I thought was so sweet.
She's also kind of doing that thing of like, "I'm cold. Do you want my shirt? Oh, you'd give me your shirt to me." It's like, Huda, just stop, like, please.
I mean, over and over. That's her way. Okay, she's been out of the game for years. Okay.
I absolutely screamed when Chris says he doesn't have a type. He's just attracted to emotionally unstable women. And she goes, "Am I an emotionally unstable woman?" He goes, "Oh, we'll find out."
He goes, like, "Oh, I don't know yet." I was like, well, Huda.
She doesn't think she is. So good for Huda.
Yeah, but she doesn't think she's a lot of things that she is.
But you know what? It ends in a makeout to a song by, we talked about Big Brother, Survivor's J. Maya. So that was very exciting.
Love this. That means, J. Maya is on that Love Island Spotify playlist of every song they've played this season so far, which I truly have just been playing on shuffle when I have time to listen to music because it's
good playlist.
All bangers.
It really is. The budget was there.
The budget was budgeting for sure. Okay, who else should we go? Should we cover the Taylor, Clark, Alandria? I hate even putting them in an actual triangle because they're not in a love triangle, but
I feel like there's so much more with them at the end of the episode that I would prefer to touch on them later. I feel like we really could get TJ and Iris out of the way because we've already talked about Iris, and shockingly things seem to be going pretty well for the two of them.
They just like each other. They're other than the conversation with Sierra, I feel like nothing about Iris's journey was really not that kind of journey. Well, sorry.
It kind of seemed like they may have had a journey in Soul Ties.
They perhaps had a journey in Soul Ties, but there's cameras in Soul Ties and they didn't show us.
They showed movements.
Well, they had some level of journey, but that wasn't what I was talking about. They just seemed to like each other. They were thinking about each other while they were apart. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like the type of thing where it's not necessarily my couple, but I think that they are probably stronger than we're giving them credit for or than the show is allotting the screen time for.
There's a very good chance that they're actually the strongest couple in the house. Yeah.
Ugh. That felt gross in my ears.
I know it doesn't feel good. I'm not happy about it, but I do think that you know, there's something to be said for two people that are into each other, seem happy, and are not really talking to anyone else. That means they're just hanging out all day long, probably having a blast, and it's just too boring to show us.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's a couple of these other couples that we can pretty easily check off. I will say Andrea has discovered she's not super into Brian anymore. He even admits the conversation is just straight boring when they're talking. And I think that's because she has her eyes on Pepe.
She does. And she goes to Pepe and says, would you be open to exploring with me? And Pepe says, no, I only like to have one relationship at a time. Sorry.
I love that Pepe says, actually, no, not interested. Thank you. I'm talking to Grayson, who I'm also not interested in at all.
Perhaps Pepe's on the wrong show. Just like many of these people. Like many of these people could have been so good on different dating shows.
I feel like Pepe was on, like, fine to be on the show. I just think that they sent home the person that he actually connected with.
Yes, but then it's like, if you actually want to be with them, just leave or stay and be open to meeting other people.
That's the thing, is I was kind of excited about Andrea and Pepe. I think that they could have been semi-interesting to me. I think that she seems like fun and flirty enough. I really like Pepe. I'm starting to be a Pepe stan. No, question mark. I've been a Pepe appreciator. I don't know what's stronger than appreciator, but smaller than stan. Maybe a fan. I don't know.
It might just be a fan.
A fan? Fan feels weird too. Stan is less weird. So I think that Pepe's been solid and like underratedly so, but I think his time in the villa kind of ended with Hannah at this point.
Yes, I agree. And with all the interviews that have come out since Hannah left, it does seem like that connection was a lot deeper than how the show portrayed it. We were kind of led to believe that it was just physical, but it seems like it was actually very sweet and emotional as well. So honestly, like, he should have just left with her. Well,
here's the thing. Is he just gonna leave?
He might.
I really feel like he could. And that's the thing, is that I was very tempted in the favorite boy vote to vote for Pepe. And I'm just like, is that a waste of a vote? Is he just going to leave anyway?
Yeah, I think he might just leave anyway. You'll be happy to know I am a Pepe appreciator at this point. Woo! I've definitely come around on Pepe. Welcome. He's not really on the show that much, but when you watch the background of scenes, he's like really including people in conversations, like being nice to the women, making sure people feel comfortable, and all of that are green flags to me.
When in that final challenge, which we will get to, I think he's put in a pretty tough position where he does question a little bit, like, is now when I'm supposed to tell Grayson I'm just basically not into her? But he does the right thing and does not embarrass her as much as he can in front of 20 other people.
And a lot of those other people could take the note at not embarrassing others in front of 20 people. But we'll get to it because I'm pissed. Let that be known. I'm pissed.
But this leaves Brian to explore options. And Brian has decided that he is going to explore things with Jaden.
Okay. And Jaden tells him that her type is tall, dark, and handsome. To which I say, the only people we've seen you interested in are Austin and Nick, so okay.
I feel like this is like maybe something, but at the same time, like, I don't know. Jaden said it's the best first chat she's had, which I feel like is indicative of something, but at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah, you guys can get to know each other at the airport when you're flying home next episode.
Yeah, I mean, if they were to couple up together, then they will be out in the next, like, maybe Brian will slide her through a little bit because he's now liked a bit more based on the final challenge of this episode, but like, not for long. There's not that much of a season left.
I have a hard time seeing them even honestly making it out of this next episode, dependent on how many people go home. I think that this could have been something just if they both happen to be earlier Islanders.
I have to admit, I don't see it.
Well, again, based off of one tiny.
Yeah, like, I just, like, even when, like, she's like, oh, that's my best combo I've had. I was like, is it though?
I mean, her other conversations have been with Austin, so I feel like low bar.
Yeah, but at least, like, Austin and Jaden laugh together.
That's true.
Like when the clips we saw of them in Casa, they were like fully cackling and having a blast, which I think is more indicative of chemistry than like one conversation where no one really cracked a smile.
I mean, Shelly and Austin also smiled a lot, and it to me, it just feels like Austin has decent friend connections with a couple people here. Haven't really seen a super strong romantic one, and so that's kind of probably where I'm left there. But again, I don't think this ends up mattering in 2 episodes.
No, not at all. Is there anyone else, or are we ready to go into the...
Well, let's go into the challenge because I do think it plays pretty heavily into pretty much everyone else's stories.
Yes. So this challenge was called Stand on Business. All of the Islanders received blank postcards, which they could write their honest opinions on and send to other Islanders. And you can choose if you want to sign it or send it immediately. Sign it or send it anonymously.
Not, yes.
Sorry, I was saying anonymously and then read the word immediately, and it really short-circuited my brain. And so then everyone just like gets their postcards from everyone else and then reads them in front of everyone. How did you feel about this challenge?
I feel like this challenge has so much potential to flop, but this set of Islanders is so messy and doesn't care about each other at all that it unfortunately was not terrible.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think in other seasons we wouldn't really get much, or we would get a ton of anonymous ones that no one adds up to, which would be fun as well. I was shocked by the number of people who were willing to say, you know what, I didn't sign it, but yeah, that was me.
Yep. I agree, and I think that's pretty quick here. I think there's people like they take it in all different types of ways. So, for example, Anonymous calls out Austin saying that he doesn't give any girls effort. He's just enjoying his time in the villa. And then once he pushes back on that, and Jaden like has his back, Andrena's like, "Yeah, it was me. I just wanted to see how you'd answer before I like admitted to who it was. I wanted to see like your honest reaction." So there's some of those, but then there's also some where Pepe takes this opportunity to call out Shelly, Alandria, and Sierra on why they sent Hannah home because he doesn't believe their reasoning.
Yes, he says she's one of the only girls who truly explored like a connection with another person. The logic doesn't make sense. And Sierra defended it like it was between Hannah, Iris, and Amaya. We felt that Iris had sling betting with TJ. Amaya hadn't had a chance, and Hannah had 2 chances. And we were worried that Pepe would end up in tunnel vision. And it's obviously clearly possible for Pepe to find another connection because he's here with Grayson. Maybe it wouldn't have happened if Hannah was here. And Shelly says, oh, it's about who wasn't just locking in with the first connection. Like if you had, and Sierra goes, oh, if you had to make this decision, who would you have picked? And he's like, well, I would be talking to the boys. Like you talk to the girls.
I think Pepe chickened out a little bit there, but for me, ultimately, they're still lying. I don't believe them at all. I don't think that it was just about like who did or did not explore too fast. And I think it has come down to like who they like at this point. I think they in general like Amaya, and I think Sierra particularly was close to Iris. It doesn't seem like any of them were that close to Hannah. So like that's fine if that's what it is and it was just friendship wise, they can say that. Or if it was like truly just we didn't feel like Iris and Amaya had a chance, then just say that because it feels a little convoluted in the reasons they're still giving.
Yeah, it gets to be a little bit much. I'm also like, why? What are we doing? Like, Pepe, why are you
like
still
Amaya
at the restaurant?
You sound like Amaya. Why are we talking about all these people who went home? Who cares?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. I love to be compared to Amaya, my queen. Yeah, I just... It was an interesting choice for Pepe to bring this up in this format in front of everyone. But
yeah.
Because like when Pepe gets questions, he gets one question that says, well, since Hannah left, you've been playing it safe. Like, we know you don't like Grayson as much as you liked Hannah. And this was like mean to Grayson.
Exactly. I'm wondering who did ask it, because if it's one of the other guys, Pepe has like kind of made it pretty clear. I'm debating when I should say this to Grayson. And so I feel like it's kind of a dick move if you know he's going to say it. It just feels like mean to her at this point where you're making him basically say it without say it or just drop it during this challenge. So it puts her in an uncomfortable position. But at the same time, like, other people were in more uncomfortable positions.
Yeah, she like gets to speak up a little bit here of like how she's frustrated and people recouple all the time. So like you should just be in with me. A little insensitive, really.
It's a weird thing to be like, people couple up on Love Island all the time. So even if you don't like me, just do it. Like, what?
Yeah. and Pepe's really like, well, I'm trying to move respectfully, like everything's fine. And Grayson's like, but who's it all right for? What about me? And
yeah.
like, you're not even on this show. We don't know your name. This is too much energy.
It's kind of the thing of, I respect that Grayson wants answers, and also that she like probably wants a moment on the show, because she's probably like, if you're going into Casa, like you got to do a lot, otherwise you're not going to be pretty like very important to the show. And at the same time, this is kind of putting him in a position where either he continues to say nothing, or he does what I think you don't want him to do and tells you, like, I'm not interested, leave me alone, in the front of everybody.
I felt like we were so close to that happening because she did keep pushing it, and I was worried. But Pepe is a respectful king. He didn't do that to her, which is very kind.
Yeah, I thought it was a good move.
Speaking of not good moves, Amaya got a note, which Austin took credit for, which said, you cry more than needed. You try to move too fast for everyone. To which I say, shut the hell up, Austin. I think it is a crazy thing to be like, oh, someone's like, you're too emotional. You emote too much. Because like, yes, Amaya is emotional. Yes, she cries. I feel like, generally speaking, outside of a few situations where everyone was really upset, she doesn't really make it anyone else's problem. Like even here, she tried to like walk away and not cry in front of everyone.
I have no problem with however much, or I mean, I guess if you cry too little, it's become a little weird at that point, but however much people want to cry, like go ahead, do it. That's fine. I took it probably to be like the first part not super mean. And I think overall this was not meant to be as harsh as it came off, but could have been worded better for sure. I think Austin, maybe not a poet, didn't write this the best, but it becomes more of a problem when everyone starts to really pile on.
Yes. And, because Amaya handles it really well. She goes, God forbid I'm a sensitive gangster. Like, if I'm not your cup of tea, don't drink it, which I really liked.
Like how she's like, if I'm not your cup of tea, don't drink it. If I'm not your book, don't read it. If I'm not your computer, don't power it on. If I'm not your door, don't open it. If I'm not your blanket, don't wear me. Like, okay, Amaya, we get it.
I love it. Say more, Amaya. I think it's hilarious. I loved it. And Austin says maybe I was like a little harsh, but like it felt like we moved so fast once we coupled up. And again, and Amaya did a really good job of being like, yeah, but you didn't have anything to say at the time. I came to you to like ask if you were comfortable and you had nothing to say. And Ace is like, oh, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and like the babe this, babe that is so much. Like she needs to meet people in the middle ground. And this is where like, thank God Brian stepped in to be like, hey, like, I also come from a Hispanic household, and calling someone like babe or mi vida or mi amor is like not uncommon. And like Amaya's not the only one who has to meet people halfway. Y'all also need to meet her halfway instead of just like not understanding her.
And I think that what it is their opinions. Like if they don't like that, that's fine, but communicate that with her early, and like maybe it's not a match, instead of something like Ace where it was maybe like a little too direct, or like Austin where it was way too indirect. Like we got to have some middle ground of conversation. And I think Ace's was only really too direct because of the timing of it being right after he chose her in the recoupling. So I think that like that was the main issue. But then especially even like Zach jumping in after they have a conversation, and Zach's like, when I'm with you, I let you kiss me. Like, excuse me? Like you're surprised to be kissed?
Like, shut the hell up, Zach. And first of all, no one was talking to you. So why are you inserting yourself into this? This is a bad look. He's like, I don't even know your second name. It's like, no one knows your last name, Zach, and we don't care to learn it. But to us, Amaya Papaya, get behind us, because that was crazy work from everyone. And it got worse too, because then Ace, gets his that says, well, Ace, if you and Shelly are so strong, why haven't you closed things off? And then also people have sucked up to what you say. The Ace posse doesn't go against you. When it came to Jeremiah, he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't. And in that point, Austin was getting like kind of aggro in the conversation.
Appreciated that Austin kind of brought up a little bit of it, where I do think a large portion of the audience thinks that Ace is like the Regina George. He has his group that will do what he says. He has his followers. Nick's an Ace follower. Like, it's been a point of conversation. And this is again where I was like, how much is getting leaked into this villa? Not that Austin has never felt like this or seen this, but it felt particularly specific at times.
A little bit, but there was that moment earlier in the season when Ace was like, and look at how, or sorry, when Austin was like, and look at how Ace is standing up and like gesturing and they're like following his lead. Like, I do think that Austin has maybe clocked a little bit of that, which I think is valid because as well, like the men tend to hang out together. And so he is like really seeing them interact even more than what we see. And, you know, Austin's a little bit older as well. So he's perhaps seen like these kinds of dynamics, but I mean, maybe stuff leaked in. And honestly, I wish the things that I had to say would leak in so that they could at least start making the show more to my interest.
I would say that Austin was like right in his premise, but did a terrible job of arguing it. Yes. I think that Ace did a great job of arguing it, but wasn't necessarily correct in his premise. Like
I didn't feel Ace did a good job arguing it. I thought Ace came across looking like a baby.
I agree, but I think the people in the villa didn't know how to argue back. Where it's like, oh, Jeremiah, you know, oh, Andrina signed off on that. He came on her strong, which I don't think she would have said love bombing, like came on too strong, that she wasn't interested as well. Yeah. But Ace was like, I made my point before and I stuck by it. And so here's me continuing to make my same point. The only place that I feel like maybe Austin could have gotten him back pretty easily with a little bit of a cheap shot is when Ace says, one of us is 6'5" and the other one is 5'10". And if Austin just had been like, who's 5'10"? Like, which one of us is 5'10"? Because I don't know why Ace is still trying to keep this up.
You can tell who's 5'10" and a leader by how much they tell you I'm 5'10" and I'm a leader. Because if they'll tell you if they are, and that's the only way to know. Obviously, yeah. I would love to meet Ace in real life because I want to stand back to back. I am 5'7" and a half, and I think I potentially could be taller than him, if not the same height.
No problem. It's just funny that he keeps insisting he's 5'10" when
it does exactly. It's the lie that's the problem, not the height.
Yes. So I think that when Amaya tries to get involved and Austin tries to shut her down, like, this is not your conversation. Like, this is what Austin really annoyed me.
It was so Austin goes, this is our chance to air stuff out, Amaya. Do you not understand what that is? As if Austin has understood literally anything. This is the man who 2 days ago said, oh, does anything scary happen with diabetes? And have you had any traumatics? Shut the hell up, Austin.
I felt like the mask was slipping a little bit, where Austin has been this like, ooh, fun, goofy, silly guy. And, oh, he couldn't possibly be dangerous at all. And he's just so fun. And I was like, I don't know. And like Amaya says, I feel like the true colors started to show a little bit here. But I think that Amaya had just like a tough go at it again. I think to go back to the Zach stuff, I didn't believe any of the conversations that he was having. It was super weird when she tries to talk to him and she's like, you didn't talk to me at all. And he's like, well, I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't talk to the guys. I did, like, you sat alone. Like, you refused to engage in the experience.
I also like Amaya has approached him many, many times, and she's just asking for him to approach her one time. And I feel like he kind of hit her with the phone works both ways. And it's like,
he literally goes, you have legs. I was like, I would have stood up and used those legs to walk away in that moment.
Listen, I'm starting to understand a bit more why Zach maybe has veneers, because I wouldn't be surprised if someone hit his teeth out of his head at some point because he's being an asshole.
It was crazy. I don't know if Zach felt like, oh, he's moving on to Alandria, or if he's just like bored by it all, but I firmly hard done on Zach and Amaya, and I'm so glad that she said in that, like, I don't want to talk to you, and not just now, like, I'm done with talking to you, period.
Queen. She stands on business. 10 toes down. Love it.
And she has a couple little prospects going. I feel like a lot of people are open to talking to Amaya. The boys are like looking across the yard, being like, you know who's bad? Amaya.
I love too. In I think it was the Sunday night episode, TJ makes a comment about how he likes curly hair, and the next day Amaya's hair straightened in a ponytail. She does not want his interest.
So I don't know. I feel like Amaya's doing a good job here. I think she has a couple of options. I don't know that I am firmly believing they can get to the point where I'm going to be like, wow, look at this strong couple of Amaya and blank. But do you think that Amaya could win this season?
If Amaya's at the end, especially if she's at the end with someone like Brian, she could.
The thing is, I feel like it's kind of Ilan that's pulling the most game onto Amaya at this point. And I don't know if I see that working, considering that Amaya doesn't know where Belgium is. So I don't know if they have a ton in common, but
she's bad at maps, and she was brave enough to say it.
It was just a silly moment. I thought it was fun. I always like these, but you know what? I am very much enjoying Amaya on the show, and so I think that there's a chance. I think there's a chance that Amaya could actually be our winner at some point.
Especially if Alandria ends up going home, I think Amaya is maybe the second most loved by the fan base in general.
Agreed. Would you like to talk about Ace and Shelly or Alandria, Taylor, Clark?
Do I have to?
Pick one.
Let's do Ace and Shelly.
All right. I feel like Ace and Shelly come into this stretch of episodes pretty good, despite the fact that obviously Chris is still here. Shelly's talking about how she wants to explore things with him. At the same time, Ace is gearing up to go to war. He is ready to fight for Shelly, which I think it's really the Hearts on Fire challenge that starts everything crashing.
Yes, and I also just want to know the way Ace talks about I don't lose, I win, and it's like, just tell us how you actually feel. How about that? How about that? But during Hearts on Fire, Shelly goes back for seconds to kiss Chris a second time, which I think is crazy work.
It's a lot. I honestly was like, ooh, Shelly is really making out with Chris. And I was like, you know what? She's interested in him. It's during a challenge. So I was like, it's kind of a free pass. But then when she went back to him the second time, I was like, ooh, Ace is going to be steamed. And Chris does the same thing with Shelly.
They like to kiss,
Well, Sierra says that Shelly's the best kisser in the villa. So.
And Sierra would know because she has kissed literally everyone.
Literally, it was so funny that every single woman in the villa kissed Sierra this week. Every single one.
And I was like, okay, what's the rationale behind that? How many of these women could potentially also want to maybe date her, because I think my happy ending for Shelly is that she dates a woman.
Look, if I could vote for, Shelly and someone else, that would be thrilling. But I just don't know that it's going to be the case. I mean, based on the trajectory we are on now, I know Shelly starts out not super frustrated with Ace. It is much more directed towards Huda. But this Hearts on Fire challenge creates a lot of problems where Shelly is obviously frustrated with Huda. She is now getting questions from Ace where Ace says okay, so you have issues with this stuff going on in the challenge or who I'm making out with in a challenge, but you're the one who wants to continue exploring things with Chris and you don't want to close things off. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but Ace made an excellent point there.
I am so excited to hear it because I completely agree. I think that Ace has made lots of good points here. I really haven't seen Shelly's point of view in terms of, and that's why I'm less mad at Ace, because Shelly is also exploring things. And so like I don't know, it's a whole weird complicated thing where I'm like, I don't really think she should be mad at Ace for this because she's also exploring things. And so that's what's so weird about it, is it feels like the boundaries were firmly not set before the challenge in a way that Sierra and Nick at least attempted to have a conversation. So then now when all of the sudden challenge kisses are a problem, I'm surprised.
And I feel that Shelly and Ace from jump have been very clear about challenges versus not challenges, and that there is a clear delineation between the two, and like you can't really get upset about what happens in challenges.
For a long time, Shelly and Ace would only kiss in challenges. So it seemed like that was their way of just like, oh, we're like kind of exploring. And maybe that's almost like why it matters more, because that's when like they had all of their intimate moments and they knew that they were sneaking kisses in like what they really were wanting to do outside of challenges. They were using the challenges to excuse. And so now Ace is like, are you using the challenge to do your true desire in kissing Chris? So like, you really want him, you don't want me, I'll step away.
I feel like every season of any given show, they kind of create their own ethos and their own philosophy of like what's correct and what's incorrect for actions in the show. And I do not love the like moral framework of Love Island USA season 7. It's so weird. And I've seen a lot of takes online of like, this is like the first like solidly Gen Z season of the show, which I don't know if that's 100% correct. I'd have to look up the birthdays for last year, but that it's really giving insight into Gen Z dating patterns and all of that stuff. And it's really making sense to me now why you will see all of these people who will be like, no, I've never been in a relationship before. They were all just situationships. None of them were that serious. And it's like, no, you also told 10 people you love them. So make it make sense. And I think that it's just, we're seeing kind of like the evolution of dating culture in front of our eyes. And it can be a little bit frustrating when it's different than the dating culture that we were accustomed to.
It's interesting because I've seen the take and it's a confusing like paradox of where the stereotype is that like Gen Z is super sex negative, but then also they're like so free loving with like not closing things off, and I'm just going to date multiple people. And in terms of how I am being led to believe that that is why it is the case on Love Island.
Yeah.
And so I don't fully buy into that. I feel like it is just a couple of strong personalities have kind of defined the ethos of this season, and that's just what it's been. I don't know that I'm expecting it every single time. I would love to hear from people who maybe I'm not yet watching this season of UK. So if anyone is watching UK and it's having a similar outcome, you can let us know. But I don't know. I'm not fully buying in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you can like paint any one generation with like a broad cloth for the dating. But it I don't know. It's interesting to think about, and I think it will be something to kind of watch as more seasons of Love Island are coming out and seeing how that is. Because like I feel like everyone last season was also pretty young, and like 3 of the final 4 couples are still together today. So it's really, I think the mix of people this season just didn't work out properly, or maybe the way that production had thought that they would. And so I think that production has been kind of employing a lot of force at every turn to try and kind of get things on track to be a little bit more normal. But I think if they had just treated it as normal and done like recoupling men choose, recoupling women choose, like back and forth a couple of times where people actually went home, it would feel more right. Because ultimately at the end of the day, we are halfway through week 5 of this season. They tend to only do like 7 weeks. And there has been one proper recoupling, boys chose, no recoupling where the women chose. And there's only been 3 eliminations?
It's been really weird. I'm like, why can I count how many people have gone home outside of Casa, I guess, on one hand, including Casa on 2? Like, this is weird. I don't know. I don't like it. I will also say a point that I really appreciated Ace is where he talks about how he's pretty ready to close things off with Shelly, but he doesn't want to do it in what looks like a move to get her to stop exploring Chris. And so he is very mindful of that. And so he is waiting until basically she says like, that's done. I'm over exploring, until he asked that, because he says he's not controlling. That's not how he's going to start to be. And so I actually thought this was a very encouraging sign from especially someone as young as Ace.
Yes, I loved it. Oftentimes Ace will like sneaky say something that is incredibly emotionally mature.
Yeah.
Not all the time, and sometimes he says very
there.
immature things as well. Like, no one is perfect, obviously, and I don't even particularly like, I don't love him. I don't hate him or anything like that, but he's not my favorite on the season, in large part because of his contribution to the kind of ethos of the season.
Yeah.
But I did really like that from him for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think they're just not eliminating people because they're like, maybe if we keep them all in there, a real connection will eventually form.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that.
Agree.
And I did like that Ace was kind of like, well, but like, why do you feel some kind of way about the Huda of it all when you're still exploring? I did like him bringing that up.
Yeah.
I don't like agreeing with him, but that's the way it is. Where
I think
I've now gotten lost in the sauce.
I think it was the right way to question your like partner in the villa during this challenge. And the question, like, he doesn't go into a full out argument. It's not super accusatory. So it's just like, I don't understand this. Like, could you clarify this for me? And so I think it does get to the point where they're both like, am I wrong? Am I the one who's wrong here? Like, asking the rest of the villa. So I don't think we really get to a full explanation here. I'm wondering if they're going to just be able to move past it, because kind of seems like Chris is going to become a non-issue for Shelly very soon. But
yeah, Chris makes it very clear during the challenge that like he's really enjoying what he has with Huda, and he's told most of the men about that. And so like I mean, this man is 6'8". He doesn't need to wait around for people who don't want him. There are people who want him.
He says very clearly that he does not give two craps about being in the villa. He could be overseas playing basketball right now. If you want to send him home, send him home. He's genuinely interested in Huda, and the reason why he has not been, not been going to talk to Shelly all that much is he also does not feel like things have been reciprocated since he's been in the villa. He was raised not to pursue something forever without like any indication that someone's interested.
And pass that lesson to Alandria. I'm begging. And yeah, I really like this. I felt like Chris, along with Brian, were the two men who came across the absolute best in the challenge and going into a vote. So that's good news for them, because normally as Casa men, they would be just no shot at all. But I think they could at least be in the top half of the vote after that challenge. Like, we're going into a vote with the fan base, I think, kind of mad at most of the men.
I would say it's not the worst position that a Casa man has ever been in. I just worry it's a little bit too little too late, because we really saw almost nothing of them in Casa. So while I'm kind of left in a position where I'm like, are the Casa boys or some of the Casa boys in my top half of the men left in the villa? But I don't know that they will be in the top half of the voting.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. But my vote went towards Chris.
Fair enough.
But yes, okay, now the quote triangle, which isn't even really a triangle, it's more so a line with a little dot nearby.
Oh, just orbiting the line.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I feel like I've said pretty much everything I need to say. Alandria stand up is the summation of it.
It's the problem is where she kind of starts the week in, it's the chapter that she should close, but at the same time, it's the strongest connection that she has. So it's really hard to say she's just going to walk away from it entirely. And her friends are checking in like, okay, how about this connection, and your other one? Like, where do we stand on that?
Yeah, Alandria has really fallen for the sunk cost fallacy, it seems, because she put so much time into this. She feels like, oh, this has to work out now, or else it was all a waste, which is, of course, not true, because every relationship is a lesson, and that's not a waste of your time. If they were really her friends, they would say not Taylor.
Literally anybody else. Like, please. You would have a better chance with anybody here, which is so unfortunate.
she comes in to talk to the girls and she's like, back to exploring. Like, you know me, I am always exploring. I'm like, where have you explored? Stop it.
I mean, like, I guess kind of with Nick, I guess kind of with Jalen, but neither felt super serious at the time, at least for me. So I think it's always been Taylor, at least on Alandria's side. And so it's upsetting when we then see Taylor and Alandria, and he's like, yeah, you did your big one in the challenge. Like, I only didn't kiss you because I wanted to be respectful of Clark. And it's like, you barely kissed her before Clark was even in the villa.
Yeah, we've seen your kisses, and they're nothing to write home about.
Oh, no, but true. Yeah, it's this thing of where Alandria's left questioning, like, how could 2, maybe 3 days, because Casa was really short this year, how could that be enough to overcome the 3 weeks of what we had? I thought it was so good, and I think the problem is just Alandria thought it was so good, and Taylor did not.
Well, I think Taylor did a good job as a player of Love Island to do what he had to do to stay in the villa.
Yeah.
He was really only at risk one time when she could have been with Jalen, and she chose him over Jalen, which meant that, he applied pressure when he needed to apply pressure based on Ace's tutelage, not to forget. And then he waited. And when someone came in who he was actually interested in, he pursued that, and it was very clear to anyone watching that he liked Clark better than he maybe ever liked. Like, I think him and Alandria have a really good friendship connection.
Yes.
Probably not anymore, but they had the potential to have a really great friendship. But from her perspective, it had started to kind of lean romantic, and it just never got there for Taylor, which I think in the context of the season does make him a little bit of a villain for how he kept Alandria from actually exploring when the one time that the opportunity actually arose. But at this point, when it comes to choosing the woman he has a stronger connection with, I don't think that's the part that makes him a villain.
I agree. I don't blame Taylor for the choices that he made. I think that he did what was right for him, and it's unfortunate that it came at the expense of someone that we really like, but that's the way the show works. What do you think of Taylor and Clark?
I mean, I think they really like each other. I think that they're a cute couple, and they can go home.
I have said this. I was like, oh my God, they seem like they would be a great match off of my television screens. And it's not because I really dislike either of them. I'm sure that I would like Clark a lot if I had just gotten to know her, like basically at all. But I find Taylor kind of boring. And I don't think that Clark is going to be raising his stock enough. And I'm not talking about livestock, because I think that it's just like, okay, they're here. The decision, is getting kind of forced at the end of the episode, but I don't really need to watch a lot more. Can I tell you the conversation that drove me absolutely crazy?
Please do.
When Taylor and Clark are talking and they're like getting kind of like cutesy together, and Clark is like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like horses that roam everywhere, and we're gonna have cows that roam everywhere, and our kids are gonna bring in the little baby horses and the cows into our house, and what are we gonna do about that? And I was like, what? This is flirting? I hate this.
I mean, maybe if you're like a country person.
It's been 3
I don't know.
days, and you're talking about our children bringing cows home.
Can someone who has lived on a farm tell us if it's normal for baby cows and horses to be brought in the house outside of like if they're gonna die?
It's the least of my issues is cows in the house at this point. My issue is talking about children after 3 days and what you're gonna do when those alleged children bring in cows to the house. Like, you're talking about disciplining. Talking about disciplining your made up children after 3 days. This is so bizarre. Like, it's not cute. Like, that's not a fantasy I have, is children bringing cows and horses into my house.
It's like, hey, we've known each other 2.5 days. How do you feel we'll discipline our children? Like, are we gonna like do like the timeout step, or you think like we'll do groundings, or like I don't know, maybe we'll watch some Super Nanny to see what she has to say.
And I don't even really think that the conversation was remotely in the area of discipline, but I'm just so confused what it even was about, because I'm just like, at what point I could never imagine having this conversation, even being like, what are we going to do when our kids bring home like a stray dog, to like make it slightly more in my world. It would never cross my mind to be like, oh yeah, and our kids bring home animals on the third day of knowing someone.
Yeah, it's odd. It's odd for sure. I also like how like they're talking about farm life, and Clark is like, and I love all white homes.
I love super modern homes. Like extremely modern. And I think, you know what? That is doable. She can have a super updated, clean, nice interior of a farm.
Yeah, that matches the vibe completely.
I don't think that is the like what I think Taylor is setting her up for at this moment.
No. It's just not correct. It's just simply not. And basically, so the challenge is where this all comes to a head, right? Or is there anything that we missed before the challenge that you wanted to get on?
Look, I think that we can, talk about Alandria's future prospects after this. She talks to Zach and a couple of the other guys. I don't think it's Zach. I think Zach is kind of a weirdo.
I think Zach is gonna go home.
Yeah. So don't think it's Zach. We'll see what other man ends up being there that I guess she'll talk to. Part of me was like, maybe Pepe, but I think Pepe is kind of off in his own world at this moment.
I assume they're going to bring back Scott from Love Island UK season 10, Love Island US season 5, Love Island Games, and Perfect Match.
Yes, the 17 seasons of reality TV he's been on at this point. I could see it.
I mean, I think that he would do a good job of making it seem like he could like Alandria for a few days, which seems to be his skill set on these shows.
It would be enough for me to vote for them to win, probably at this point.
He doesn't normally make it to the end of the season.
Scally. Yeah, whatever.
But maybe it could happen. So Clark asked Alandria, I know you think I'm just a test and that our connection is only physical, but it's way more than that. It's very real. And Alandria goes, congrats, which was hilarious.
Sent me. Absolutely died. I was like, is she just going to move on?
No, I loved it. And Clark says, we had our conversation and you called me a test, which I did think was off-putting. Like, it's not nice to feel that I'm a test when I'm a human being. I'm here to do the same thing you are. And Alandria's like, thanks for signing it. Like, I wasn't personal when I called you a test. That's just what I use for everybody. But she does apologize. And honestly, like, I do feel like Alandria and Clark have a lot of respect for each other. And I'm glad that Alandria correctly directs any ire towards Taylor, because Clark never did Alandria dirty.
Yeah, it's just a word, like how everyone calls them bombshells. I call them test. Huda calls them the B word. It's just what we call them.
Yeah, how would you feel if I called you a bitch instead?
Test was really appropriate.
Hey, to be fair, Huda hasn't called any bombshells a bitch in a couple of weeks since I assume production talked to her and said, you've got to calm down or go home.
Give it time. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, listen, it could happen again. I'm not saying it's over forever, but it's been a minute.
It has, and I think that is something I like, where Alandria and Clark have never had really tension between them. Even when this question is asked, Clark is like, I knew you didn't mean it like that. Like, we're good. Like, this was just like, I'm just asking. Like, we're fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, and it's also like, I think it's pretty clear to anyone in there. You can tell that production is wanting Alandria to be around. And so when you've been on the show for 1 week, it's clear they don't want Alandria to go home. What, you're going to say something rude to who's clearly like America's sweetheart? Like,
yep.
No.
Yep. So I think that was all good. But now Taylor gets some questions. And Taylor's first question is, you and Alandria had such a strong connection. How can that change so quickly? And Taylor starts with like, oh, Clark just gave me this different feeling, like I'm a kid. And Alandria goes, how old are you?
Yeah, which I laughed at. And then I laughed even harder when Taylor says, I'm 25. I can't be a kid. I can't have a kid feeling. And it's like, well, you can have a kid feeling, sure, but you actually cannot be a kid because you're a grown man.
I will dispute it.
No,
I'm on Taylor's side.
Stop.
Be a kid, Taylor. You're good.
Oh my God. And Huda's like, it's just crazy. Like 3 to 4 days overcame 3 to 4 weeks. And Taylor's like, I had 3 weeks to get to know Alandria, and now I'm trying to get to know Clark. And Huda goes, well, why are you telling Alandria you're going to spend time together and then you're not? And he's like, I'm trying.
To which Clark agrees, and I don't know if that's just the kind of like, as discussed, I think, a couple times, they'll like agree in public and then we'll talk about it later. Because I don't know if Clark really agrees, because she's even expressed the sentiment, which I think is very true. Taylor pulls Clark for every conversation, but Alandria pulls Taylor for every conversation.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like, at least. And I really do not think they would hide it from us if there was all these examples of Taylor like trying to be with Alandria. Alandria asked Taylor, stand on business and stop acting like a little bitch. Which to me, it's like, well, that's how you know it's over.
Yeah, the thing is, I think that she was not fully ending things here. I think that she like said it with a smile. I don't know if that was just not to come off in any type of way, but
well, I mean, it was written down, so it's kind of hard to gauge the intended tone, right?
She then, when she talks and smiles at him when it's said that it was hers, and it didn't, to me, give a like, yeah, I said that like type of smile. Like it was like, this is not what it is. She makes it clear, and I think that this was good, where she says, you told me during the challenge that you didn't kiss me because of Clark's feelings, but you never spared my feelings. You never like did that for me. And so when it is, quote, like, fuck my feelings, well, now it's fuck your feelings too. Like, I'm gonna call you out here. So Clark, yeah, he did say that. And and Clark's, again, he did tell me, we had that conversation. So things are not looking great for Alandria here at this point.
No. And then Sierra's like, Taylor chose Clark thinking that Alandria would get dumped.
A good reminder, because I think that that's lost, is Alandria, he picked Clark thinking you will not be an option moving forward. So it's not like, oh, he was torn, he wants to continue getting to know you. No, he was content with you going home.
Yeah, exactly. And Alandria brings up like kind of her hurt feelings about how when Jalen was here, she reassured Taylor every day and he hasn't done anything for her. She's angry, but she's been holding it together. And she would ask what he needs and he couldn't say anything. And then a girl gives him 3 days of attention and he goes. And it's like, yeah, you're spelling it right out, Alandria.
She was asking him, and I feel like that's all the clues. Alandria was so perceptive in so many ways of like, what is America trying to tell us? Is Taylor only doing this because a bombshell's here, and so he's trying to make sure that he maintains my attention over the bombshell? But the one thing that she couldn't fully put together, unfortunately, is when she's asking Taylor, like, what do you need from me? What do you need from me in this relationship to make sure that you know how much I like you? And Taylor's saying nothing. It's because he doesn't want anything. He doesn't want anything from Alandria.
And I think it makes sense to be someone so wonderful like Alandria and be like, yeah, well, of course everyone would want me, because why would anyone not? And then it just comes down to it. Some people just don't match. The puzzle pieces don't match always. And that is unfortunate, because they could be two great puzzle pieces and sometimes they're just not meant to go together.
It's hard when you're like on TV. You can only take people for what you know. Yeah. And as far as Alandria knew, Taylor was telling her the right things, even if he wasn't doing it in the most enthusiastic manner. She didn't really have anything to compare it to, because he was how he was with her all of the time. With her, he wasn't in front of her face acting super different. So it's only now that he's with Clark that he is acting super different. And it's still like at the point of like, what other option does she have? Unfortunately, I think early on she might have, but now she doesn't. And so when Taylor finally gets the last question and it's just make up your damn mind, I was pretty horrified knowing that Taylor is about to say, well, since you want me to make up my mind right now, I pick Clark.
And I have seen a lot of people saying, oh, I'm so happy that Taylor was standing on business. And I'm like, yeah, it's good that he's being honest in front of everyone. That's cool. But I felt that throughout all of these questions, I felt his tone and demeanor was just like, it could have been nicer, but I also feel like maybe he's been pushed to the point of having to be extremely blunt because Alandria hasn't taken all of the hints. So I'm of a mixed feeling.
For me, I feel like there was a happy medium. Taylor could have said this before. I think Taylor has felt like this for a long time. And he even said, I don't like being in a love triangle. I don't want to be in a love triangle. It felt like he actively did not want Alandria to stay in the villa. And so it would have been very easy for him to just tell her this before and to stop being so wishy-washy when it came up earlier, because I don't think that he would have made this statement now if he did not know before. I think Taylor has always known. And so I'm glad that he finally said it, but I wish he had said it days ago.
Well, and to me, he said it when he picked Clark. So I'm like, why are we here 3 days later still having the same conversation? He picked Clark. It's done. Please stand up.
Yep. So that's where I'm at, is like, glad it came out. I'm especially glad for Alandria that she will finally, hopefully, stop pursuing Taylor. And that's been like kind of my concern with Alandria staying at the Casa Amores. It's like, and for what? So we can watch her pursue Taylor more? Because that's like kind of sad for me. Well, not in that I think like it's like, ooh, she looks sad, but like it's not what I want to watch.
The fact that this happened in front of everyone, I feel like takes away that option from her, which is at least good.
Let's hope.
But I would have thought that after Friday night. So
there's a lot of seasons where I would have thought that, and it's not always the case. So yeah,
it's tough. She could talk, I guess, to Zach, maybe Brian. She mentions Chris at one point, but I don't think she's gonna get anywhere with Chris.
I would be kind of surprised. I feel like Chris and Huda are starting to lock in a little bit more. I don't think it's a completely closed door. Especially after Alandria outs the Chris and Huda kiss. It's not a really great foundation to be building upon. Because Chris did not love that.
Alandria outs info. That's like the one thing we really know about her. Well, and that's the other thing too, where like, even if there was the potential for a beautiful relationship between Alandria and any of these men, I feel like the way they've watched her single-mindedly pursue Taylor and not really give any of the time of day, for her to then switch up and be like, I want to explore with you, it just is not going to feel genuine. And who would want to be like second place?
Yeah. What did you think about Alandria outing the kiss between Huda and Chris?
She's outed so many facts that she wasn't supposed to out over the course of the season that I honestly am like, was it on purpose or was it just that she has loose lips?
I think it was on purpose, and I think that the correct way to go about this is in the moment, just being like, Huda, have you told Shelly? Because you should probably tell Shelly, and just telling her like, I feel like this is not something that I can hold on to, and so I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell her right now. But she tells it here, and I don't care. It doesn't make me like Alandria any less. Like, it's good drama, whatever.
Yeah, it was fine. I like Alandria a lot. I just think that her journey has run its course. And so we have 20 people and they need to start scurrying out the door. And so I honestly, if she stays, cool. If she goes, cool. I think we've seen the full, Love Island journey for her.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do kind of agree, especially like if Taylor and Clark, like maybe there's a last minute bombshell that comes in, but if Taylor and Clark go home, it's kind of like, I don't know like what story there is exactly. So it is what it is.
And I don't think a lot of people are going to vote for Taylor.
No, I agree. And it doesn't seem like they're voting to keep strong connections, because Taylor and Clark, they just closed off immediately and they weren't open to exploring with other people. So not playing by the game.
And if you just go with your first connection, that's like, and that's sometimes people on Love Island meet right away and they're just each other's person and they like each other. And I like, it's weird to be like, well, but you didn't explore enough. Like, okay, like,
I mean, the real answer is Taylor is one of the Three Musketeers, Three Stooges, whatever that they're deciding to call themselves that day. So I think they'll have the votes, at least on Taylor's side, and I think they would be inclined to keep Clark too. I will say my complaint right now is I wish this was voting for couples, because if we lose like TJ and Clark and Brian, and like if we lose halves of every couple again, like what are we doing? Like, like it's going to be so many random people that none of them go together.
And that's what I don't understand. Like, we finally have some actual couples in the villa.
Yep.
So why would we want to, like, it's too late in the season to be doing this. It's so bizarre. I'm extremely confused, befuddled, do not understand why production is doing it this way. And I just want to see some normal recouplings. And now, like, we're out of time. Are we ever going to get a girl's choice recoupling? We might not.
I think we could have done like one more recoupling and then voted as couples, or even just vote now and Alandria and Elon are safe. But regardless, at least we're getting rid of people. I'm hoping it is 6 people at this point, like the bottom man and woman on each side go home automatically, and then the bottom 3 you can save one.
We could send home 10.
Look, we need more eliminations as we go.
There's too many people in the villa right now. It's actually mind-boggling to me that it's been a full, like, almost a week.
I agree.
Of 20. 20's too many.
It is. But I think we're winding down on the 20 at least, so that is nice. I also think we are winding down on the podcast. Is there anyone we missed?
Sure are. If we did, then I think they were irrelevant. Yeah, if I'm being completely honest.
I think Boston came up for 0.2 seconds, and that's about fine for that. Otherwise,
I mean, he was irrelevant outside of the challenge.
Yeah.
And then he pissed me off.
I would say that Ilan and Grayson probably the 2 least screen time on this episode, but that's okay. We'll live.
We'll survive, and they will too. Of course, there is the vote. Well, we'll see. There is the vote for favorite boy and favorite girl. I voted for Amaya and Chris. Who'd you vote for?
Nice. I did ultimately vote for Pepe. I'm gonna let my king decide if he wants to stay, and then I voted for Andreina. I was like, let me just throw a vote in someone that I feel like might not be super safe, but I kind of like.
I like her. I'm just like, who's she gonna connect with? Like,
yeah.
You said, honestly, I don't care. I'm giving him borrowed time, and that's fine. You're allowed to.
Everyone else that I like felt super safe. Like, I feel like Amaya, Shelly, Alandria, Sierra, they're all safe. So I'm not worried about them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want it to be one vote in the Amaya army. And I'm happy with that. So it's fine. But yes, so the vote is ongoing on Thursday night. We will get the result of the vote, and we will see anywhere from 2 to 6 people probably will go home. We're hoping obviously more rather than less. But hopefully it will be very messy and very fun. While you're missing us on Wednesday, when there's no Love Island, you can think of Love Island by going to weknowloveisland.com and rating our podcast 5 stars. You can let us know if you're interested in the network covering Beyond the Villa, which will be starting in a couple of weeks. Letting us know in a review is like the best way to let us know, because then that allows us to provide that to the network and say, hey, look, there's a demand for this, because it's a new show. So they don't always know if there's demand. So that's all I'm saying. 5-star review is the best place to do that. And we did reach over 200 reviews. So we do love and appreciate you all very much. But other than that, you can also listen to Scally on all his other podcast adventures. Scally, let us know what's going on with you right now.
Ooh, myself and Matt Liguori are talking about the challenge over on the Free Agents podcast. The challenge 41 is coming back very soon. So we did a draft that we will be releasing on the main feed very soon with maybe a significant other of someone on the cast. So keep an eye out for that. And then anything else I'm doing will be on Twitter at Brian_Scally, on Twitch at bscally, and on Blue Sky at Brian Scally.
Yes, you can follow me everywhere at Kirsten Said What, including twitch.tv/Kirsten Said What. And you can listen to Mess Magnets, which is a weekly pop culture, celebrity gossip, trending topics podcast at messmagnets.com and patreon.com/messmagnets. Scally and I will be back after the Friday night episode of Love Island. Just a programming note. Friday is a holiday in the United States of America. So the podcast episode will be coming at you a little bit later than usual, but we will still record. Don't worry. We've got you covered. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.